expensive, so I would recommend a passive exchange traded fund. And I put here together sort of the 4 cheapest ones. They have annual cost of the first one from Charles Schwab, 0.033%. That is nothing. It's super cheap. It doesn't cost you an arm and a leg to buy these ETFs. And you have a very nice broad access investment in the US dollar. You go to ETF.com and there you can analyze the whole day, lots of ETFs. But there are disadvantages, and that's now to answer your question. First of all, if you do it yourself, as small as these costs are, you save them, you don't pay them. Yeah? If you don't buy an ETF, you save on these management fees because you do it yourself. Secondly, these ETFs, they pay the dividends quarterly. Yeah, so there is some sort of delay because when you have your own portfolio, of course you get the dividend immediately. Yeah, and if you have 8, 10, 15 stocks in your portfolio, you get a dividend nearly every second week. Yeah, so you get constant cash flow inside your portfolio. Here, the payment is delayed. Yeah, basically, in the worst case, a company pays a dividend, but the ETF pays it out 3 months later. That's not so much of a factor because we have low interest rates. If you get the dividend 3 months later, it's not that big of a factor. But in terms of money, these are the 2 monetary reasons to do it yourself. The second thing is, when you buy these ETFs, of course you buy the overall US stock risk. As we showed, it was fairly volatile with ups and downs. So you have this overall risk in these ETFs. And what we aim to is reduce this risk. So you can reduce the risk by composing the stock portfolio yourself. And maybe most importantly, when you buy these ETFs, you have no control whatsoever what you invest in. The first ETF invests in 2,000 stocks. You don't know who these, you can look it up, who these companies are, but you have no discretion as to decide, I want to put my money with this company, or at least I want to exclude these and these companies. And of course there are lots of, well, we come to the ethic part very soon, but basically you have no control over whom you give your money. You just give your money here to 3,600 companies, and you don't discriminate according to ethical standards, maybe. That's a crazy idea. Okay, does that answer your question? Okay. Basically, you save a little bit of money, but you have more control. That's, for me, the main part. You gain more control by doing it yourself, and you save a little bit of money. Okay, yeah, to summarize, to be cost efficient, you do it yourself. You compose your own individual stock portfolio. You avoid high-cost mutual funds or ETFs. You reduce the equity risk by choosing these stable companies. And you receive the dividends immediately. And you have full control over your portfolio. Okay, let's go to the ethical part then. Like I said, when you buy an ETF or a mutual fund, you have no discretion about whom you give your money. When you compose your own portfolio, you can realize your own morals. Of course, our morals or our ethical standards are very different here in this room, but it's a problem for me, might be no big deal for you. So it's a very individual aspect of investing. I personally, refuse to buy tobacco companies. I refuse to buy companies that are actors in defense or in weapons, guns, and don't laugh about me, but I refuse to buy Pepsi and Coca-Cola, because sugary drinks are actually doing a lot of harm, especially here in the US. So that's my personal ethics. Yours might be completely different. Some of you might not care at all. Main thing is money. But this ethical standard is, or this ethical aspect is something that I believe should be talked about more often. Some have problems with nuclear power. I don't know, in Europe we had a couple of accidents, and people in Europe are more aware of the danger of nuclear power, maybe. Ethics are a derivative of your culture and your education. So it's very individual. Genetically modified food. Here in the US, you don't have to label the food if it's genetically modified or not. In Europe, for example, it has to be labeled. So consumers have a choice. They can decide on buying this product or this product. Here, it's not mandatory to label genetically modified food. If you have a problem with that, then you might, invest more in companies that are labeling their products. Of course, there are labor exploitation, child labor, and there are many other things. Pork, some for religious reasons, some have problems with pork in slaughterhouses, so you wouldn't buy a slaughterhouse that is listed on the exchange. But if you buy the ETF, you are going to buy a slaughterhouse, somebody that runs a slaughterhouse, or somebody that is producing alcohol. So this aspect you can then realize when you do it yourself. And there are, just to mention that there are, of course, ethical funds. Yeah, mutual funds that say we analyze the universe of companies and we invest according to certain ethical standards. And then they list what they exclude, what they look for. Of course, this is not personal then again. You might not agree with these personal standards. And they also take a lot of management fees for their work, because this is actually work, analyzing a company and knowing how many sugary drinks they produce or how many weapons, that's work. So the management fees on these ethical funds are quite high. But that would be also an alternative if this is important for you. Let's summarize. So this is a receipt that I put also together in the handouts. First, you just exclude the areas that you're not comfortable with. And you might be fine with all these things. I'm not. It's very individual. Then you analyze the historical earnings of some candidate stocks. That could be between 20 and 40 companies that you look at the earnings and see how stable they are. You pick the most stable ones. So you're going to end up with a portfolio of 10 maybe, 10 to 20 stocks. You please cover all sectors, if possible, and you put the same money in each sector. Better risk weighted, but that's maybe too much to ask for. And then you're fine with that portfolio. You don't have to look at it that often. Between 6 to 18 months is good enough, because these are by definition stable companies. They're not going to change much within 1 year. So you're fine doing that work once. You can do it again in 1 year's time or 1.5 years' time, and then you rebalance or replace stocks. So it's definitely doable. And what I have to tell you is where to get the data from. Obviously, earnings data you get from the big online discount brokers, Ameritrade, Scottrade, Charles Schwab, Fidelity. I forgot E-Trade, I think. I personally am with Fidelity. They provide all the data for free. You don't have to have an account. So you just go to their webpage and type in the ticker of the stock, and you get lots of information, more than you want. But you just go to the earnings section, and there you have the history for the last, as long as it goes back, all the history of every stock. So that's really all you want. And to do this analysis, you should go back 5 years minimum. Yeah, I'm going back 8 years, 9 years, because I want to cover the Lehman crisis. You want to know how the stock performed if the earnings were still stable in a situation of crisis. So we had not much of a crisis the last years, so it makes sense to go back to the Lehman crisis to see if it's still stable. Or alternative sources, CNN Money, White Charts, Yahoo. Good. Again, you would start with these candidates, but this is just a suggestion. There are many more that you can look at. Pepsi and Coca-Cola, for example, are not on here. You know why? But they have unfortunately also very stable earnings. So you might, these are just candidates, so you have to extend them. And that's it. Thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me via email, talk with me, and I'm happy to help you building your own stock portfolio that is more stable, cost less, and is according to your ethics.